So I played Battlefield 1, have you? Thanks for tuning in. I was watching a video the other day on melee weapons on the First World War. And I've also, played Battlefield 1 and stuff like that. And I see that they have a lot of clubs and they have, trench knives and stuff like that. Now, I was wondering, I watched this one video, I forgot what the guy's name is. I'll look it up and I'll put it in the description. He talks about, bayonets as melee weapons or fighting weapons as a trench knife. Now, during World War I, a lot of countries had very long bayonets. This is an SMLE bayonet, by the way, reproduction. Now, the reason they had long bayonets is because before they had the bolt-action rifle and stuff like that, they had single-shot rifles. If you look at the Martini Henry or Springfield trapdoor rifle, it's a single-shot. They're single-shot rifles, and they have long bayonets. Now, the reason is if you look at muzzleloading rifles. So, okay, you fire in a line, the other guy fires in a line, you charge at each other, and then you want to have distance on that person. So that way, okay, you can keep yourself away, you can parry, and stab, yada, yada, yada. Now, it's not, like they said in range, it's not like Bruce Lee's in there kicking butt and taking names. But now these are just regular guys that, okay, they need to get in there and kill the guy. Get in there and kill the guy. It's not, a romanticized way of like sword fighting. If you look at sword fighting movies, it goes on for a while, and really it's only a couple of attacks and it's done. So I was wondering, what about, bayonets as trench knives? Now I brought a couple out, and I brought the K-Barb out here just for kind of giggles. Now when you think of trench warfare as a melee weapon, people normally think of like either using the bayonet on the rifle. But if you read All Quiet on the Western Front, the German soldiers tell the new recruits, if you put the bayonet on the rifle and you stab somebody, it's going to get caught in that person or the bayonet will break off. And they did have a long bayonet on the Gewehr 98 rifle. Now this is not a Gewehr 98 bayonet, this is actually a K98 bayonet. So anyways, so they're like, okay, don't stab them because you might not be able to pull it out. It's going to be very hard to, and it might break off because they had a really long bayonet. And then they swapped to like that butcher blade, and the really cool one, they had a sawback bayonet, which a lot of those were grounded down because the Germans, the Allies didn't like the sawback because it's such an awful weapon. Oh dear. Well, I wouldn't want to get stabbed in the first place, and I definitely wouldn't get stabbed with something with teeth on it. So I kind of understand where they're coming from. And then I guess the German soldiers were told that they're going to torture. If they catch you with a sawback, they're going to torture you with it. So that's why a lot of them are grounded down. Anyways, so when you think of like trench warfare, you think of clubs, hatchets, and stuff like that. A lot of homemade clubs, and they did make a lot of trench knives and homemade knives and stuff like that. But now when you think of a trench knife, now this is just a K-Barb. This wasn't even thought of yet. Now, you probably think of that one knife that has the brass knuckles on it. That's what people think about trench knives. Now, the U.S. had a trench knife that actually had a spike on it, and it didn't have brass knuckles, but it had like a guard around your fingers, and you could still punch with it, and you could stab, and it was actually a spike on the end of it. So anyways, now I'm not a weapons expert on melee weapons of World War I, I'm not gonna lie, but I was wondering, what if, got in the trench? Okay, I don't have a club, but I got this. So would I rather use my hands or this? So anyways, now if you look at people that get stabbed today, they usually get stabbed with like a kitchen knife, and the people who do the stabbing, a lot of times they actually cut themselves because there's nothing to protect your hand, because a kitchen knife is meant for just cutting meat. not actually stabbing someone. Now, bayonets, they're usually not edged. They're usually just, okay, put it on the end of the rifle and stab the guy. Put on, stab, stab, stab. Now, something like this is such a long weapon. If it was edged, now, okay, you can hack with it. You can stab with it, but, okay, if you watch In Range, they show you how you can easily deflect a bayonet on the end of a rifle. Now, World War I, the bayonets, the reason they were long, again, it was just old war tactics meeting new technologies. Now, this actually feels pretty comfortable. It seems like it would protect your hand. But it is pretty long, and like something a little shorter. Now, these were used in World War I. These were the SMLE sword bayonet. This is a reproduction again. Now, these actually, the Australian cavalry actually did take these and use them as their cavalry saber, from what I've heard. So, yeah, let you know how long it is. Now, next one, this is an Arasaka bayonet. Now, the Japanese actually produced, I think, the longest bayonet during World War II. I believe that's actually cultural, why they had such a long bayonet. Oh, well, they did shorten the sword bayonet. I'm not sure if they did that in the trenches or they did that at the factory. Anyways, but I've never literally seen a shortened Arasaka bayonet. They're always long and scary looking. Now, again, the sword bayonet, it's just long. If it was edged, yeah, you could cleave, stab. You'd probably want to take a shovel over all these, over this one and that sword bayonet though. Shovel over a club or something. It does feel kind of uncomfortable because on this one it's actually round right here. So it actually feels pretty comfortable when holding it. This one, this part's so flat that it kind of feels uncomfortable holding it like that. So, but again, these are designed to put on the end of your rifle and stab somebody, not use it as a melee weapon like that. Now this is the M1 Grand bayonet. This is not a reproduction, by the way. Now this is a short knife. Yeah, you could probably use it as a trench knife. Feels pretty comfortable. Except this part, you can kind of feel that. I think you can get over that, but anyways, yeah, you could probably use this as a trench knife, especially if you edge it. Now, trench knives were relatively, probably even shorter, a little shorter than this. So, yeah. And a lot of trench warfare, from what they talk about in range, they did a lot of this, like ice pick style stabbing. Now, this is the K98 bayonet. What I'd be worried about using this as a trench knife is the fact that there's no guard. Again, like I talked about the kitchen knife thing, if it was edged, cut yourself when you're stabbing somebody. Could probably be used as a trench knife though, but I'd just be worried about it slipping, cutting my hand. Yeah. Now this is actually my favorite bayonet. This is the Swedish M96 bayonet. It's really light, it's really handy. You see there's a nice guard on it, so you can stab. Now these weren't, the only war I know that these were actually used in is the Winter War of '39 between the Soviet Union and Finland. Now, I don't know if they were using like trench style warfare, these knives, but I know that the rifle was used, and I assume the bayonet was probably used as well, because Sweden ended up sending some, I think, volunteers and some firearms over to Finland. Now this one's actually really light, it's all metal. See, there's a dent right there. And actually it's edged right here, it's actually sharpened. I bought it like this, by the way. So, yeah, and this is a real one. Yeah, I think it'd be a pretty nice trench knife. Now this is the Mosin-Nagant bayonet. This is supposedly what they did is they put the bayonets on the rifles and sighted them in with them. Okay, about using this as a melee weapon, I don't think so. If you look at it, you can tell it's supposed to be on the rifle. And it feels very uncomfortable. At least like when you stab somebody, you wouldn't like cut your hands because it's a spike. So I think you could still do some damage with it though. Maybe if you cut this part off, attached it to a handle. Like you see, there are some people that actually made a handle that this will fit on. I think you could probably use it. Now the lapel bayonet, my friend has one. It actually does have a handle on it, and it's a spike. So, yeah. Speaking of French, this is a Moss 36 bayonet. Now this bayonet is actually thinner than the lapel bayonet, I noticed. Now basically it hides under the rifle barrel, and when you're ready to pull it out, you just pull it out and stick it back on. Now it looks like an ice pick, a really long ice pick. Now this I'd be worried about bending because you can see it's actually pretty fragile bayonet. You can still, I wouldn't doubt you can stab someone with it, but I'd be worried about hitting a bone with this thing. So, yeah, I think you can still use it in trench warfare, but it wasn't around during World War I because these were invented in '36. Now, the Springfield bayonet was actually longer than this. It's basically the same thing as that SMLE bayonet. It's just a long bayonet. Now, I think it'd be the same with like these two. Just a really long bayonet, you might be able to use them as a melee weapon. Now, this is a reproduction K-bar knife. Now, the Marines were issued these in, I believe, 42. Let's see, it says 42 on there. I guess in 42, but they still use these today, so it must be doing something right. Now, the bayonet's supposed to go on the end of your rifle. It's not always edged. If you want edge, edge it. I wouldn't edge a piece of history like this right now. So, but anyways, now, yeah, it looks like it'd make a good trench knife. Feels comfortable. Feels like it would protect you. And again, it must be doing something right. Marines are still using these, so yeah. But trench knives, when you look at them, they kind of got a blade like this. But sometimes it's a little smaller, sometimes it's a little thinner. Now, in range, I'm gonna grab one of the dull ones for this. Now you can look at my ugly mug. They were saying that if you snuck up on someone, they would stab in the neck area. So hang on, I don't want to stab myself, so it would stab in the neck area and right down, like in this area on my chest. Yeah, that's where my lungs are. So I got my throat, my lungs. So if you got it behind somebody in a trench raid. So, yeah. So, yeah, all right. Put that down. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's my opinion. Again, I'm not a weapons expert on melee weapons during the First World War. I'm not really a weapons expert. I don't work at a museum. I'm not a historian. So, and by the way, these are called quillions. If you want to find out the use of them, I highly recommend checking out Mike B's channel. He does talk heavily about them. So I recommend you go to his channel and look at it. So that's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'll be sure to make another one. Bye.